Hi guys, my name is Matti Sulanto, and in this video I'm gonna take a look at this lens. This lens has got to be one of the best, if not the best, standard lens I have ever used. Please also remember to subscribe and hit the bell icon down there so you'll get notified every time I post a new video. This is the Lumix S Pro 50mm F1.4 standard lens. This lens was introduced last January, at the end of last January 2019, along with the rest of the current Lumix S series cameras and lenses. And right now this is the only Lumix prime lens for the L-mount cameras. This lens that I have here, it's not mine, unfortunately, it's not mine. Panasonic very kindly loaned me this lens so I can try it out. They did not ask me to make a review, nor do they pay me anything for making this review. I make this review and all the content in this channel just so I can share my experiences with you guys. Let's start with the build quality of this lens. By the feel of it, I'd say the exterior is mostly metal, but the aperture ring and the focus ring are probably some sort of plastic, and the included lens hood is definitely some sort of plastic. I'm being careful what I say about the materials because I've made mistakes before, and some people commented that the materials that I said are not correct. The overall construction quality or the build quality feels very solid, and the lens is also dust, splash and freeze resistant, which is very important especially for a professional photographer, because you simply can't stop doing your work if the conditions change, the weather changes, it starts raining, or all of a sudden you find yourself in a, dusty environment or something. You just have to be able to finish your job. As you can see, this is not the most compact and portable lens. It follows the current trend where lenses tend to get bigger and bigger and heavier. This is not the most or the biggest 50mm or standard lens out there, but it's still, pretty heavyweight standard lens. The filter size is 77mm and this weighs in at just under 1 kilogram with the included hood. And here it is side by side with the 24-105 f4 kit zoom lens, which has the same 77mm filter thread, but this zoom lens is considerably lighter and a little bit shorter as well. But despite of the relatively large size of this lens, it balances really well on the S1R camera body that I'm using here. Because the camera body is also, pretty big, the whole combination is well balanced, and the grip on the body is large, so I can hold this even with one hand without too much stress. Also, the control layout of the camera body is nice, and the autofocus of the lens is really fast, so in real life use this combination actually feels smaller and more nimble what it looks. For example, I shot some street photography with this combination, and it worked surprisingly well, even though this is probably not the ideal combination for street, for example, but it was still surprisingly convenient to use also for something like that. So this is a 50mm standard lens with the angle of view of 47 degrees. These days we don't see many of those traditional 6-element double Gauss designs anymore. The new standard lenses tend to be a little bit more complex optical designs, and so is this. The optical construction is 13 elements in 11 groups, including 2 aspherical elements and 3 extra low dispersion elements. Those ED elements help to suppress, for example, chromatic aberrations. The aperture mechanism has 11 blades to help to create those delicious round bokeh balls in the background. And the minimum focusing distance is 44 centimeters, which is pretty typical for a standard lens. Well, what about the optical performance then? In one word, it's awesome. This lens is really sharp and contrasty, even wide open, so there's no need to stop down to get more sharpness. You may want to stop down to get a bit more depth of field, but no need to stop down for more sharpness. But as with any optical design, any lens, even this lens, gets a little bit better when stopped down just a bit. And I would say the best optical performance comes at around f4, f8 range, but even at f11 the results are perfectly usable. I suspect there is some electronic correction going on with the vignetting, chromatic aberrations and distortions, so they are not distracting at any point. There is some visible vignetting wide open, but if you really want to get rid of it, you can get rid of it in camera if you're shooting JPEGs, and you can also get rid of it in your favorite raw processing software if it's really distracting for you. It's not distracting for me because I most of the time even add some vignetting in my shots. Even though this lens is very sharp, it's not harsh. The image quality is sharp and soft at the same time. It really delivers very pleasing looking pictures, and especially the autofocus area, the bokeh is really smooth, creamy and nice. Even though this is only f1.4 lens, not the f1.2, still the bokeh is really pleasing. One of the reasons I really like this lens is the sort of sharp, soft looking pictures that I get with this lens, especially at wider apertures. The pictures just look really nice. This lens has two autofocus motors, a linear motor and a stepper motor. And the autofocus is really fast. Even when I was shooting street at wide open aperture, I could still easily get sharp results in very quick situations. And if you for some reason prefer to focus manually, it's also very a pleasing experience with this lens. Partly because of the excellent, awesome viewfinder of the S1R camera, but also because this lens has so-called manual focus clutch system. The focus throw is about 90 degrees if you use the manual focus clutch. However, if you prefer some other type of focus throw or more focus throw, you can still use the menu and adjust the focus throw to whatever you want between 90 and 360 degrees. However, it's good to know that if you set your camera body to manual focus, then the lens is also on manual focus regardless of the position of the manual focus clutch. But if you want to temporarily use the autofocus on manual focus mode, you have to set the focus ring like this. If you have the manual focus clutch engaged, the autofocus does not work even if you press the button. But if you have it like this, then you can temporarily use autofocus even if you set the camera body on manual focus mode. I really fell in love with this lens. I love the way the pictures come out. This lens is really sharp, but the results are kind of sharp, soft looking. The transition from the focused or sharp area to autofocus soft area is very gradual, and at least to my eyes there is something little bit unique in the way the pictures look, and they look very pleasing to my eyes. I think some people hoped for more pictures of people shot on this lens, but let me tell you, something like that is coming. I'm working on something that I can't tell you yet, but I promise you there will be 1 or 2 more videos with some more pictures of people shot on this lens. Because right now I can tell you that this is an awesome lens for environmental portraits. My conclusion with this lens is that, yes, you guessed it already, it's an awesome lens. The optical quality is really first class. The mechanical construction is first class, it's weather sealed, the autofocus is really fast, and yeah, everything is really great on this lens to me. But there's only one minor downside. This lens is not exactly cheap. It's not the most expensive 50mm or standard lens, but it's still around 2,300 to 2,500 dollars, which is a lot of money for a standard lens. However, I think this lens will not disappoint anyone who wants that little bit of special in their pictures. There are not that many alternatives right now. There's the Leica SL series 50mm 1.4, but that's almost double the price of this one. But later this year, I think we will see some more Sigma L-mount lenses, and I hope the autofocus on those ones will be as good as on this one, because I think the quick autofocus on this lens makes a big difference, and it makes this lens feel much more nimble than it looks like. But yes, that's it this time. Before you go, please take a look at maybe these 2 videos here, and thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.